The Grand Canyon is striking in its beauty and majesty, but its incredible panoramas hide deadly dangers. Every year, tourists risk their lives for selfies, drone footage, or extreme jumps. Sometimes one careless action turns into a tragedy. Today, we will tell you about 6 cases where the desire for adrenaline or a popular shot cost people their lives. These are stories of the harsh reality of the Grand Canyon, where beauty and danger go hand in hand. In May of 2016, 27-year-old Alexis Garrett arrived at the Grand Canyon alone. She was a freelance photographer from Arizona, working with travel content and trying to establish herself as an independent author. Her work had been published in small online magazines, but she hadn't had a real breakthrough. That is why this trip was of particular importance to her. Alexis was planning to create a series of aerial panoramas using a drone, which she believed could attract a large audience. She arrived at the canyon early in the morning, avoiding popular tourist routes. Alexis was well aware that shots without people are valued much more, and unnecessary details like railings or information signs spoil the composition. After a short hike, she came to a rocky ledge that offered a wide view of the gorge. The place seemed stable and comfortable, although it was not officially considered a viewpoint. The weather that day was almost perfect. Clear skies, good visibility, and a light wind created a feeling of complete control over the situation. Alexis took off her backpack, carefully laid out her equipment, and began preparing to launch the drone. She checked the battery, set up the camera, and calibrated the stabilization sensors. All her movements were confident, honed by numerous previous shootings. The first few seconds after launch did not cause concern. The drone rose a few meters and stabilized in the air. Alexis was looking at the screen, adjusting the angle and height. At that moment, a gust of wind abruptly changed the trajectory of the device. One of the cables caught on the strap of the camera she was holding around her neck. The drone swayed, lost stability, and began to drag the equipment with it. Her reaction was instinctive. Alexis took a step back, trying to hold the drone and prevent it from falling. She didn't look at her feet. Her attention was focused on the equipment. The rocky ground in this area consisted of small, loose stones that were not fixed. Her foot slipped, and she lost her balance. Alexis tried to grab the edge of the rock, but it was not enough support. The fall was short but fatal. She slid off the ledge and fell to a lower rocky level, sustaining severe injuries. Hikers walking along the route nearby noticed her only after a while and immediately called the rescue services. When the medics arrived at the scene, Alexis was no longer showing signs of life. The investigation found that there were no violations or outside interference. Alexis acted independently, was not under the influence of alcohol or other substances. The tragedy was caused by a combination of technical issues, a gust of wind, and dangerous proximity to the edge of the cliff. The drone and camera she had risked getting too close for were found nearby and were almost undamaged. Alexis Garrett's story is yet another confirmation that even experience and training do not guarantee safety in the Grand Canyon. A few seconds of losing attention is enough to make control turn into an illusion. The beauty of this place often makes you forget about the danger, but nature leaves no time to correct mistakes. In August of 2017, 22-year-old Jason Reed arrived at the Grand Canyon with 2 close friends. He wasn't a professional blogger, but he was active on social media and dreamed of a video that could dramatically increase his views. Jason worked temporary jobs, changed his plans frequently, and believed that the internet could be a chance for him to break out of his routine. He closely watched popular videos with extreme content and was convinced that the main thing was to find the right moment and a bold shot. From the very beginning, he perceived the trip to the Grand Canyon not as a tourist trip, but as an opportunity to shoot something truly spectacular. On the very first day, he explored the area, looked at the ledges and crevices, evaluating them from the point of view of shooting. His friends noticed that Jason was constantly looking at the canyon not as a dangerous natural environment, but as a scenery for a future video. The idea for the jump came spontaneously. In one of the narrow sections, he noticed a rocky ledge from which he thought he could jump over a shallow gorge. The distance looked short, and the bottom of the canyon seemed close enough. Jason walked along the edge several times, estimating the trajectory, taking steps back and forth as if he were rehearsing. His friends tried to stop him, reminding him of the danger and the lack of any guarantees, but Jason persisted, convincing him that he had calculated everything. The place he chose was not equipped for visitors. The surface of the stones was uneven, covered in places with dust and fine sand that had accumulated during the hot day. Jason set his phone to record, asked his friend to film from the side, and looked at the camera again. He was smiling, trying to look confident, even though the tension was palpable in his every movement. The run started abruptly. On the second step, his foot slipped on loose stones, but he didn't stop, hoping to steady his movement. At the moment of pushing off, his balance was already lost. The jump was uncontrolled, and instead of flying across the gorge, Jason hit the edge of the opposite rock. His body turned sharply, and he fell down, hitting his head on the rocky slope. The friends stood in a stupor for several seconds, not realizing what had happened. Only after screaming did they realize that it was not a bad shot, but a tragedy. They rushed to the edge and called the rescuers, but it was too late to help. His injuries proved to be fatal, and Jason died before the paramedics arrived. The investigation revealed no technical malfunctions or external factors. The cause of the tragedy was an unstable surface, haste, and overestimation of their own capabilities. The camera, for which it all began, recorded the entire jump and became a silent witness to how a few seconds of desire to stand out crossed out the future. Jason Reed's story has become another reminder for rescue services and tourists. The Grand Canyon is not a stage for experiments and viral videos. Here, nature leaves no room for error, and the pursuit of popularity sometimes costs too much. In June of 2015, 18-year-old Lily Mae came to the Grand Canyon with a group of friends right after graduating from high school. For her, this trip symbolized the beginning of adulthood. For the first time without parents, without control and restrictions, she felt free and able to make her own decisions. Lily was active on social media, closely following popular traveler accounts, and believed that strong visual content could change her future. The Grand Canyon seemed like the perfect backdrop for the photo that was to become the centerpiece of her profile. She told her friends that she wanted a shot that would convey scale and look different from standard tourist photos. The group stopped at an observation deck that was partially equipped but lacked solid protective fencing. Warning signs warned people not to get too close to the edge, but many tourists ignored these warnings, creating a false sense of security. At first, Lily took pictures of her friends and the surrounding landscape from a safe distance. When she looked at the pictures on her phone screen, she was dissatisfied every time. The shots seemed too ordinary, like those of hundreds of other people. She approached the edge several times, stepped back, changed the angle, trying to find the perfect angle. Her friends watched without much concern, taking the situation as something ordinary. The surface underfoot consisted of uneven stone slabs and loose, small stones. From the outside, the ledge looked solid, but in reality, many of its elements were fragile. Lily did not notice this. All her attention was focused on her phone screen. She walked almost to the edge, stretched out her hand with the phone, and leaned forward, trying to capture the depth of the canyon. At that moment, the phone suddenly slipped out of her hand. Instinctively, Lily moved forward, trying to catch it. This movement instantly shifted her center of gravity. She lost her balance and grabbed the edge of the stone, but it began to crumble under her fingers. Several pieces slid down, and in a few seconds, Lily fell off the ledge. The fall was swift. She hit the lower rocky levels and then stopped moving. Hearing the sound, her friends rushed to the edge and did not immediately realize what had happened. Panic set in. Someone called the rescue services. Someone tried to attract the attention of other tourists. The wait for help seemed endless. When the rescuers got to the fall site, it was too late. Her injuries were incompatible with life. The investigation found that Lily was not under the influence of alcohol or other substances and had no intention of breaking the rules. The cause of the tragedy was a combination of inattention, fragile terrain, and excessive concentration on the phone. The phone she had come so close to the edge for was found later not far from the fall site. Its screen was cracked, but the device was still working. The last image in the gallery was a shot of the canyon taken seconds before the tragedy. Lily May's story became another warning for rescue services and tourists. In the Grand Canyon, the line between a safe look and a deadly step is almost invisible. Here, a few seconds of wanting to take the perfect picture can ruin a lifetime, and the phone screen can completely disable the sense of real danger. Before we continue, I'd like to address you, the audience. If these stories seem important to you, please subscribe to the channel, like, and comment. YouTube's algorithms work in such a way that it is your activity that helps to promote this video further. The more people who see it, the higher the chance that these stories will become a warning, not just another piece of content. In September of 2018, 30-year-old Mark Olson came to the Grand Canyon with 3 friends with whom he had been running for many years. In his everyday life, Mark worked as an office manager, but sport was a way for him to keep control of himself and reality. He regularly participated in marathons and trail races and believed that he had a good sense of his own limits. The trip to the canyon was planned as a training trip and an opportunity to test himself in new conditions. The morning was cool and clear. The friends decided to start the day with a light jog along the edge of the canyon, avoiding the official tourist routes. They thought they could avoid the crowds and run at their own pace. The terrain seemed familiar and straightforward: rocky paths, open areas, and a sharp cliff on the right. Mark ran confidently, setting the pace for the group. During the run, he accelerated several times, breaking away from his friends. It was a common practice for Mark to test his endurance and try to keep up his speed, even in difficult conditions. He did not perceive the canyon as a dangerous environment, but rather as another route for training. It was this sense of control that became a key factor in the events that followed. At one point, the trail narrowed and ran along a rocky ledge. The surface was uneven, covered in places with fine gravel that easily shifted underfoot. Mark decided to overtake a friend who was running ahead of him and abruptly changed his trajectory, cutting a corner. This maneuver seemed insignificant and quite safe. At the moment of the turn, his foot slipped on loose stones. Mark tried to keep his balance, but the speed and inertia of the movement left no time for correction. He fell off the ledge and fell down, hitting rocky ledges. His friends heard the sound of the fall and immediately realized that something serious had happened. Rescuers were called immediately, but access to the fall site proved difficult. When the team reached Mark, he was no longer showing signs of life. His injuries were fatal. Doctors only pronounced him dead at the scene. The investigation showed that Mark was in good physical shape, did not intentionally break any rules, and was not under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The tragedy was caused by a mistake in assessing the terrain, haste and overconfidence in his own abilities. The experience that had helped him in sports for many years played against him this time. Mark Olson's story has become another reminder for rescue services and tourists. In the Grand Canyon, even physical fitness and risk-taking habits do not guarantee safety. One sudden movement is enough to turn a normal jog into a fatal mistake. Nature does not pay attention to experience. It only reacts to action. In July of 2019, 25-year-old Sarah Collins arrived at the Grand Canyon from Los Angeles. She was working as a graphic designer in a small studio and simultaneously maintaining a personal blog where she published visual notes from her travels. For Sarah, photography and video were not just a hobby, but a way of expressing herself and escaping from her daily routine. Shortly before the trip, she bought a quadcopter and saw it as a tool that would take her content to the next level. The Grand Canyon was one of the destinations on the itinerary that Sarah had high hopes for. She carefully planned the day of the shoot, looked at maps, read tips in thematic communities, and searched for less crowded places. She wanted to avoid the crowds and get a clean shot without tourists, fences, and random details. In the afternoon, she went to a section of the route that was off the beaten path. The sun was gradually sinking to the horizon, creating soft light and long shadows on the rocks. The place Sarah chose looked stable. Several large stone slabs formed a natural platform near the cliff. She stopped there, took off her backpack, and started preparing the quadcopter for launch. Her attention was focused on the technique, checking the signal, calibrating the camera, connecting her phone to the control panel. During the preparation, Sarah changed her position several times, looking for a more convenient point to launch. She kept looking at the screen, adjusting the settings, and hardly paid attention to what was happening under her feet. The rocky soil in this place was uneven. Small stones lay between large slabs, which easily shifted under her body weight. But the surface seemed reliable. As the quadcopter began to gain momentum, a gust of wind suddenly swung it to the side. Sarah instinctively took a step back, trying to maintain control and prevent the drone from colliding with the rock. At that moment, her foot stepped on an unstable rock. The stone shifted, and she lost her balance. An attempt to grab the edge of the slab failed. The fall was fast and uncontrolled. Sarah fell off the edge of the cliff and fell to a lower rocky level, hitting the rocks several times. The quadcopter followed and crashed on the ledges, leaving only wreckage behind. Tourists passing nearby heard the scream and ran toward the sound, but it was too late to help. Rescue services arrived later and confirmed her death at the scene. The investigation found that Sarah did not intentionally break the rules and was not under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The tragedy was caused by a combination of distraction, unstable terrain, and proximity to a cliff. All of these factors came together in one fatal moment. Sarah Collins's story is another example of how modern technology can create the illusion of control. The quadcopter that was supposed to help her capture the beauty of the Grand Canyon distracted her from the real danger. A few seconds of inattention are enough to turn a routine shooting into a tragedy. Nature leaves no time to correct mistakes, regardless of a person's experience or intentions. In August of 2014, 19-year-old Thomas Bailey came to the Grand Canyon with a group of friends after finishing his first year of college. For them, it was a trip without a clear plan. A few days of freedom, road trips, camping, and talks about the future. Thomas wasn't the leader of the group, but rather the opposite, calm, balanced, and someone who usually avoided risk. That's why his friends often jokingly called him the most cautious and tried to get him out of his comfort zone. On the day of the tragedy, they were staying near the Colorado River in a place that was not on the official tourist routes. The rocky shore seemed like a good place to rest. Flat slabs, shade from the rocks, and a complete absence of other people. The atmosphere was relaxed, with friends laughing, shooting short videos, and discussing what they would do when they returned home. At one point, someone suggested making a funny prank, a short video of Thomas jumping from a small ledge into the water. At first glance, the idea did not seem dangerous. The height looked low, the water was close by, and the jump itself was more symbolic. Thomas refused at first, saying he didn't like it. But his friends insisted, joked, convinced him that it was for 2 seconds and that he could change his mind at any time. Gradually, the pressure took its toll. Thomas agreed, although it was clear that he was nervous. When the camera was turned on, he walked to the edge of the ledge. The surface under his feet was uneven, slippery in places due to moisture, and there were small fragments of stone between the large slabs. Thomas looked down several times, assessing the distance and depth of the water. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself, and took a step forward. It was at this moment that one of his friends loudly shouted a joking phrase, trying to cheer him up. The reaction was immediate and instinctive. Thomas sharply flinched and jumped to the side instead of jumping forward. His foot hit an unstable stone, which immediately shifted under his body weight. Losing his balance, he fell not into the water, but onto the rocky bank below. The impact was strong and deafening. Thomas stopped moving. For the first few seconds, his friends did not realize the seriousness of the situation. Some of them thought it was part of a joke, but very quickly it became clear that things had not gone according to plan. Panic set in. Someone rushed to Thomas. Someone tried to call for help, but cell phone service in this part of the canyon was intermittent. When rescuers finally arrived, doctors only pronounced him dead. The injuries were incompatible with life. The investigation found that the tragedy occurred without intent. Thomas was not under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and his friends did not intend to cause harm. It was a typical example of an impulsive prank that got out of hand due to the wrong location, unstable terrain, and one unexpected reaction. The video that started it all was never published. Thomas Bailey's story was a painful reminder that there are no safe jokes in the Grand Canyon. Here, even a friendly prank can turn into a tragedy. A few seconds of laughter and the desire to film something funny can cost too much when the line between life and death is right under your feet. The Grand Canyon often seems to be a place where nature is created for admiration and photography. But all of these stories have one thing in common. Each tragedy began with a sense of control and confidence that nothing will happen. A drone, a selfie, a run, a jump, or a joke seemed safe until one mistake turned fatal. These 6 cases are a reminder. The Grand Canyon is unforgiving of inattention, haste, and overconfidence. There are no small risks and no random steps. Sometimes it is the most ordinary actions performed without due care that cause the worst consequences. Realizing this is the only way to get out of here alive.